Hi, I'm Angela Predhomme. I'm an artist, and I am here with Brad Smalling of Evergroove Studio in Colorado. And we're going to talk to Brad today about Dolby Atmos, which is a new sound format. I could tell you, but I'm going to let him explain it because he is the technical expert. Um, so, Brad, what is Dolby Atmos, and how is it different from typical recordings?
First of all, thank you for having me on. It's really great to be a part of this,
You're
and
welcome. Thank you
I'm
for being
glad that
gracious.
I'm really glad that we're talking about Atmos because there's a lot of excitement about it. There's some misconceptions about it. There's some misunderstandings, but it is quickly becoming the new format, and so I think this information is really important to get out into the world. Dolby
Okay.
Atmos is not a new surround format. Dolby Atmos actually debuted in 2012 with the movie Brave, I believe, and started off as a cinematic experience. Right around 2018, though, they started experimenting with Atmos with music. And what Atmos is we're all familiar with, well, I believe we're all familiar with kind of this horizontal idea of surround sound. You see these speakers around me, and we've all heard of,
So Dolby's kind of
7.1.
like surround sound, but better.
Right. So what Atmos does is it adds height speakers. So there's four speakers above my head right now. To prevent our viewers from getting nauseous, I won't swing the camera all around. But there's four speakers up there. And then what that does is that creates a dome or a hemisphere. And so I can take a vocal and we assign it what's called an object. And then I can grab that object instead of just panning left and right traditionally, I can now bring it into the room. So imagine as a musician if in the chorus you said, hey, wouldn't it be great if the vocals came up a little bit so things got a little bit more exciting? I can say, wouldn't it be better if the vocalist took a step towards you musically, like we might do on a stage, right? And then that gets artists really thinking about, like, oh my gosh, we can do anything we want to in this hemisphere. I can put a guitar right this ear. I can put a keyboard over here, and it doesn't have to be at the speaker. It can be anywhere within this dome.
So the
We've
way that
done,
you had explained it to me, when you did my song, and we'll talk about that. Brad just mixed one of my songs. But you said instead of horizontal, you also have vertical, and in this
correct.
way, like always, like you're in a bubble, like you're in a sphere.
Mhm. Right,
Is
right.
that is that a good explanation?
It's a great explanation. We now have X, Y, and Z axis to move along. So it is three-dimensional audio. You can really immerse a listener. We've done mixes where there are very intimate bridges where everything gets very stripped down. Maybe it's just piano and a vocal, or the singer, just trying to convey something very intimate. So at that point, then we just bring the vocal right here. And it just feels like they're singing right here, right in your ear. And then
Yeah.
we go to the chorus, we can push it back out and get the chorus get big.
Yeah,
And
I heard
you
that
don't
in
have
some
people
of your
screaming in your ears.
examples. And yeah, the examples you sent me convinced me to do it. I was like, wow, that's cool. So then like you can't I know that the quality of the speaker matters, right? So if you have like the free earbuds on an airplane, you're not going to get the full experience. Like so how can people listen to Dolby Atmos?
It's a great question. With any audio, yeah, the better the speaker, the better the experience. The nice thing about Atmos is it doesn't require any sort of special speakers. The easiest way for people to experience Atmos is through Tidal, Apple Music, or Amazon right now. I'm most familiar with the Apple Music platform. And then, if you have an iPhone and you have some AirPods, you can go into Apple Music, and then pretty much every modern, like every current pop song, rock song, hip hop song, and country song, so many genres right now. It's already in Atmos. And how you'll know is when you look on the app, you'll see where the song title is. There's the little Dolby logo will appear. And if you
Oh,
don't know the Dolby logo, it's a shaded in, a forward D and a backward D. So
oh
and that's
yeah.
how you know you're hearing Atmos.
Okay, you know what? I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yep.
Um, okay, so right now you said Apple has it, Tidal, and what was the other, and Amazon?
Amazon.
Okay. And do you know any plans for the future about Spotify, or that's like the most popular thing?
Spotify has to be coming. I can't say
No, it's
with
like, yeah.
authority. I can't say with authority, but I feel like I remember an article where they were talking about it and then they got very quiet. So I don't have any inside information, but I think they're planning something big. because if you look, Spotify announced a new Atmos enabled studio. So my
Oh,
hunch, my hunch is that they're doing some mixes and doing some very exclusive artist agreements so that when they do offer Atmos, they just have this amazing catalog that just suddenly drops, just boom, right?
yeah, I think, yeah, you're exactly right. If Spotify has an Atmos enabled studio, they are for sure on board, for sure. So it's only a matter of
Yeah.
time.
It's definitely only a matter of time. Well, and a side note, and what's interesting is that if artists really, really wanted to, you could release the headphone version called the binaural re-render. You could release that on Spotify instead of your stereo track, or you could have two versions. But then you'd be managing two releases and it would cost you twice as much. So I don't know how valuable that is, but there have been some producers that have released a binaural playlist so that Atmos can be on Spotify. So it's interesting.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So then, for my next single called Our Sweet Secret, I'm releasing that through the Orchard, and I know I had to send them the Atmos file you gave me as well
Mhm.
as a regular typical mix. So is that what artists need to send to their distributor? Two
Uh,
mixes?
yes, the current best practices, current workflow is still doing a traditional stereo mix. You submit that with the Atmos mix, and then those are kind of attached to each other in the distributor channel so that the listener can switch back and forth. Or if they don't have an Atmos enabled system, they get a very traditional stereo mix that the artist has also approved.
Okay, so like with a track that like mine where I've sent the two versions, somewhere like Apple, if somebody is listening with like AirPods or whatever, they'll automatically hear the Atmos version. But if they're listening with something else, then it flips to the other version.
Correct.
Okay, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
If
People
they're
don't have
not
to
on
worry about
if
it.
right, if they're not on an Atmos enabled system, or for some reason, some people aren't preferring it right now, and so for some reason, if they had that turned off, they would get your stereo mix that that you've already approved.
Okay, okay, so yeah, so with these streaming services, it's pretty effortless for the artist. Um, and the
If
listeners.
I would say so.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've told us about where we can hear Atmos and the music streaming services. I read something about Netflix being on board with it. Some of their stuff is produced with that.
Uh-huh.
But from an engineering standpoint, can you tell us how mixing Atmos is different? I know with Music Connection, at least there's a lot of engineers and technical people.
Of
So
course.
what's your process with that?
It's different in that initially the setup is a little bit more difficult. It's not simply mixing inside of your favorite audio software like Pro Tools. You need an external renderer that takes all of this panning data, all this metadata, and then turns it into Atmos for you. Dolby still very much recommends having a full speaker setup like we have here for QC and things like that. So technically getting it set up takes a few more steps. Not impossible, just not as easy as opening a session and getting going. And then once you get that going, it's initially intimidating. The first time I did an Atmos mix, it was intimidating because you can put anything anywhere. So like, where do I put the vocal? Where do I put? And so
Yeah.
the advice that I would give to engineers or people looking to get into Atmos is go a little slow and a little goes a long way, you know. In mixing for Atmos, it's good to remember that as humans, you know, we still things coming from the front of us. So what we're calling the front wall now, my left, center, and right, which is in front of me, um, is still louder and more. We might use words like punchy or more immediate. Then as sound goes behind us, sounds dull and things like that. We still perceive sound from behind us. So just you know, you got to kind of be careful about where you put your drums, where you put your lead vocal. These things are very important. So in my workflow, the very first thing I start with is the vocal. So when I'm placing the vocal, I just don't randomly put it in the center channel or over here, over there, leave it on the front wall. I place the vocal where it feels good for the song, where the singer feels in front of me, feels very immediate. All of those things that we want the vocals to do.
As a vocalist, I'm like, I'm all
Yeah.
for that. I'm like right there.
Well, I hope someday you can sit in the room with me because I think you would really, or sit in an Atmos studio near you. I think you would really enjoy if someone handed you the fader, the pan pot, so to speak, and allowed you to pull your vocal and kind of
That's
move it around
cool.
and feel what that's like. So for my workflow, I start with the vocal. I work towards the drums and the bass and establish a really good feel for that whole rhythm section vocal thing in the room. Then we can start adding guitars, keyboards, and other things, in and around, and start to really take advantage of this dome that we have.
That's great. That's great. So, I was wondering, like, how did you learn this, and how can people learn this? Other
I
engineers.
um I just dove in. I dove in head first.
That's
I
cool.
took a huge leap of faith after experiencing Atmos for the first time at NAMM 2020.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So you were
there was
inspired by
no
the conference.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, I came away from the demonstration thinking that's pretty cool. Is that really going to take off? Like, kind of thinking about it, and then once I got home and the pandemic hit, and me and my wife were kind of chatting about the state of affairs because we run a studio and everything was shut down.
Hey, that would be great for learning new engineering stuff.
She said, had we had that, maybe we would be doing other work with Netflix, or maybe we would be doing other work with, Amazon or whatever. And it was like, I wouldn't say it was an idea to future proof, um, but diversifying your service offerings is always really smart from a business perspective.
Yeah,
So she was the one. I need to give Jenny, my wife and GM of the studio, kudos. She pushed for it. She said, "We're doing this."
that's
Um,
great.
there's plenty of times I was at the cliff. I wasn't going to do it. And she said, "No, we're doing this. We're doing this."
Well,
And so really the thing about that is I didn't truly dive into Atmos mixing until our room was installed and ready to go. We
oh,
took that huge leap of a faith. I hadn't done an Atmos mix. I had only heard them, but hadn't actually put my hands on faders, so to speak, until our room was done and online.
well, you know what? Yeah, the listeners are going to get a treat because you're going to give us a sample, a few samples at the end here. So if you guys
Mhm.
stick around till the end of the interview, Brad will play some samples of Dolby Atmos sound that he's mixed, and it sounds fantastic. So a little
Thank you.
tease, it sounds great. Okay, a couple other questions. What about genres? Is Atmos good for any genre, or certain ones better?
I'm really glad you asked that because I've had so many artists say, well, but all I do is folk. We've mixed bluegrass, we've mixed indie folk, we've mixed hip hop, reggaeton, pop punk, adult contemporary, classical, straight rock. It is not genre specific. I will say the quality of recording matters more because as you start to pull things out of the stereo field and into this dome, if anything isn't recorded very well, it will become pretty apparent very quickly.
Yeah, oh, I
You
would
just, you
imagine
just,
there's no
yeah.
hiding it. Yeah.
So
Um,
it's not genre specific. It's it's up to your imagination.
okay. So in your opinion, why do you think artists and bands should consider mixing in Dolby Atmos?
That's a great question too. I think artists should be mixing in Atmos. One, it's it's a new format that I honestly has been a long time coming. So many times I've sat in this room and had an artist with a really creative idea, but until Atmos, all we had was left and right. They wanted an instrument to do a certain thing or pan a certain way or feel a certain way, or a vocal to be very intimate, or a guitar to be very airy and floating. And they use all of these terms, and it was always, I want to say it was hard to get there, but you just had to kind of, it always felt like compromise. You got there, but maybe you had a delay or reverb or a way to do it. Now, if someone wants an acoustic guitar to kind of float or feel light in a bridge or something, I can bring it off the front wall and I can then lift it up and I can have it feel like it's kind of floating above you. And the very cool thing about that is the binaural re-render, which we've touched on, which is the headphone mix that Atmos delivers. The algorithm gives you front to back, up and down. So you feel that in headphones too.
Oh,
And
that's
so the
great.
reason is it gives a more immersive experience for your listener. It gives you more creative outlet. You can do, at that point, sky's the limit, right? Whatever your imagination
That's cool.
can come up with. And then I don't have any inside information on this too, but with Netflix now doing Atmos, Apple TV going towards Atmos, all these streaming services, I can't help but think the sync opportunities are going to be tremendous out of the gate.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah. So you mix my track, and I thought that that could give me an edge. In
Mhm.
sync. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will. It's just a matter of time. And then two, a bit controversial. It's a forced format change. It already is the new standard. Apple and Dolby, and I support it because I
Apple's
think it's
all
been
about
time
that
for a change.
forcing thing.
They and
I
they
have
are.
Apple, yeah, I have Apple products. It's like, okay, now it's time. We're gonna do this other thing. You got
We're
to
going to
get
use
it
a new
together.
cable type. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's the format changes here. It is the new standard. Every modern song that you're listening to now, practically every new release is already in Atmos. I do predict that stereo is going to become the new mono. Meaning, when we got so used to stereo that we heard something in mono, we would say, that doesn't sound quite right. Oh, it's in mono. So now we're going to get so used to that binaural re-render, or now even with Atmos and just sound bars at home that you can get at your local big box store that do Atmos. We're going to hear something in stereo and go, oh, that's stereo. That's not Atmos. That's just going to become the norm. They're putting it into cars. It's suddenly everywhere. So I say get ahead of the wave now, right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Well, that's wonderful. So yeah, we are getting short on time, and I want to let everybody know again. I'm talking with Brad Smalling, an Dolby Atmos engineer with Evergroove Studio in Evergreen, Colorado. And Brad, you do mixes for artists and bands, right? So they could contact you.
Absolutely. Yep. We do from Australia to Miami,
Okay, okay.
whatever you need done, we can get it done for you.
And then why don't you give your contact information, or whatever you want to say, and then we'll get to some examples. So we'll end with some examples of Dolby Atmos. So where can people find you?
The easiest way to find us is evergroove.com. That's evergroove.com. Or if someone prefers just email, they can email us at atmos, ATMOS, at evergroove.com.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Brad. So do you want to share some examples?
I want to share your song. I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
So here we go. Looks like we got just a few. Well, we got some time. So this is our sweet secret in Atmos. What you're going to hear is you're going to hear the stereo version, and then I'll hold up a finger, and it's going to transfer into the Atmos version. And for this, you need to have on headphones. So here we go.
We stay so strong, and everybody wants to know what our secret is, as they're seeing us so happy all the time. It's not about the romance or appearances. Our sweet secret is we're just best friends. Yeah, you're my best friend. Spending free time in sweats and t-shirts. We don't care about slick, polished looks. More our style as nature walks.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that is my brand new single that Brad mixed. And do you have any other examples for us?
I apologize. Your mic was muted, so we didn't have feedback in the playback. You want another example? I do.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we just we're very honored to have been chosen to be the team that did the Atmos mixing for the new Story of the Year album called Tear Me to Pieces. Story of the Year is a kind of a pop punk sort of metalcore band. Been around for a while. They're on Sharptone Records. And I pinged Sharptone and Jackie, thank you. She said, please use an example. Please, please, please. Please use an example. So we heard what you do, which is pop and sounds really great. Now we're gonna hear the completely other end of the spectrum. So here we go.
Suffocating and I can't break free. Flying through the static like a bat out of the hell in me. 30 seconds longer till this medication dies on me. I can't see
That sounds fantastic.
Thank you. And that's a really good example of that moment where it breaks down. It's just his vocal. That vocal slams right in beside you and then pops back out for that moment.
Yeah,
So
yeah. What is the vocalist's name and what's the band's name again?
the band is Story of the Year.
Story
And the
of the
new
Year.
album's called Tear Me to Pieces. And I don't have all the musicians' names.
Oh, no, that's
memorized.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, I'm
Sorry,
assuming,
band.
as a vocalist, I'm like, wow, that singer's good. He's really good.
The whole record is
Yeah, oh,
it's
yeah,
tremendous.
yeah. But as a
Yeah.
singer, that's what I hear. But I could tell it was super tight and it was, yeah, really well done.
Yeah, very well done.
Okay, well, I guess we can wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to tell people about Atmos?
I would just encourage people to go at it with an open mind and to dive in early. It's such a fun format to work in, and once you actually hear and experience Atmos, it changes how you record. You start using some more microphones, some different techniques. You start to think about things in the room, conversations in our control room, like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. The creativity that it's sparking is not yet experienced. Like it's really, really exciting to work in Atmos, and I encourage bands to adopt it as soon as possible.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Again,
you.
this is with Brad Smalling of Evergroove Studio in Colorado, and I am Angela Predhomme. I am an artist, and we heard a little clip of my upcoming single, Our Sweet Secret. By the time this video is published, it may be out. We're looking at a release date in April, I believe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, thank you so much, Brad. It's been
Thank you.
a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was a real honor, and I really enjoyed this. I hope we can do it again.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.